So it's a 30-to-1 ratio. So it's challenging in that. A couple times you may have seen I've had some student teachers in here, which are a great help. But besides that, it's me and them. And within that, you go through the CUME folders when I get the students to learn about them, and there's a high percentage of them that have very thick stacks of suspensions and 72s, and you can see attendance records where I have a few students that were up to like 30 to 60 absences, like missing a fourth of the year. So, it creates, I've had a couple students that have been moved to the room mid-year because they've gotten shuffled around because of a major incident. So, it's, everything from swearing at teachers to I've had, throwing chairs or one assault case. So there are, there's a percentage of students that definitely have a lot of anger management issues or gaps in their education because of attendance, or maybe the behavior is part of the problem. So it's definitely, it's a mixed group. It's a lot of kids, but for the most part, while working with those, they're fifth graders, they're 10, and once they get the opportunity, I think they're hungry to learn when they're in an environment that they can learn in. This year, I set a little goal for myself not to send them out, because usually, I have a system where if you heard me say anything about checks, usually if they have one check, it's like a warning. 2, then they have a little writing to do for me. If it gets to 3, then I talk to a parent for about a negative thing. And then to 4, if it gets to that bad, or if there's like a fight, then I want it documented in the office. And basically, along with that, you could recommend suspension or whatnot. But I feel that if I am writing those up constantly and sending them out of the room, I'm actually losing the power. And it becomes just a normal part of the day where so-and-so's gone again or whatnot. So, I found that as necessary as it may be to fit an action that happens, at the same time I try to avoid it at all costs by communicating with a parent first. And yeah, I've had a chair thrown this year. They were so angry they flipped the desk over. I've had students up out of their seat ready to fight, because it still happens. And but I feel like we can avoid the situations that are going to get to that by, hopefully some of the stuff that you've seen. Well, first thing is safety, of students, obviously. So that, to diffuse the problem immediately by removing the student from other students. First by asking, and to leave. And, there has, very seldom, if it's, a restraining situation. We've been trained on that also, if it comes to that, and it has. But other than that, it's more of, giving the chance for the student to calm down, because nothing's going to get done while they're angry. Showing that I'm not as angry as they are by screaming and yelling, because the minute that I switch to screaming at them and yelling at them, it's going to take longer to get to the point of discussing how the problem could have been dealt with, because they're probably more focused on being angry at me at that point then, because of the fact that I'm flying off the handle also. And unfortunately, I think some students, people, that may be how things are dealt with around them often. So, all of a sudden, if I'm dealing with it with some sort of empathy and showing them that, that it's sad that their choice was made, and and I'm not, they still may need time in an extreme situation, but eventually we can get to talk about it. And then on smaller things, versus, screaming at the kid and have them focus on my anger, they're hopefully going to focus on what they did because of the way I'm talking to them about it. It's not 100%. It's kind of something through my, reading a little bit about Love and Logic and, along those lines, that it's kind of helped me, with my own children at home. And, it does work well with a lot of the students because they respond to the way I'm responding to them. Well, I think it begins with earning their respect right off the bat, because I think it's tough if if there is some serious behavior issues, serious anger, violence, or whatnot, and it's obviously been years coming, and now they're here, and I I feel like right away if they see me as an actual person where I earn their respect, I let them in on my personality a little bit by, fine, not, I could let loose, be a little silly and whatnot, that's something. So they, it's not like I'm trying to be their friend necessarily, but at the same time I want to be a person that they can somewhat understand and trust is going to not fly off the handle. Somebody who is already, they know what the consequences are before. It's not going to be an emotional decision about what I'm doing with them. It's already clear. So, I think if they see the procedures in place, they see that there's a consequence that's going to follow if they make a decision, and all this is clear cut beforehand, it's not going to erase the problem, but it's going to help. It's going to help me be more successful with them. It's going to increase their chances of fitting into an environment where they're not surrounded by chaos. So thus, they're going to respond to the environment around them, I hope, and put forth more effort versus cutting up all day. And and then with that, I know a lot of them. I've had examples of students where when they're home and with the parents, I think parental support with these children is huge too, because if the parents respect me because they hear from me about good things and not just negative, because many may have had negative experiences themselves, and then so that now all of a sudden we have a relationship, thus they've kind of got my back at home too, and it's not like, oh, that teacher's crazy, whatever, and I know it happens, it does, and it may have happened with me in the past, but I try to make sure I get to know the parents in one way or the other through positive notes or phone calls, and then once they see that it's kind of a team working together as much as possible, again, if a child is calling them a name or says, set them off, I'm not saying that they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to get myself in trouble. But throughout the million instances that happen throughout a day, it's going to definitely decrease the odds of it happening with someone that may have gotten set off by the littlest thing throughout many, who knows, whatever circumstances happened in the past, in past grades that caused those 72s to get written up. Well, I'd like to say, I did the comp training, where, it was all about, procedures and making sure that everything is clear cut. We've done it a few different ways. We've had rows. This is mainly, it helps with our groups because I like to have them partner work. And, we definitely, as you saw, you may have seen some students shuffling during reading because they wanted to sit by. I try not to focus on the little things as long as the job's getting done. With this arrangement, they are nearby. We can switch to group work. We do that often. And there's clear paths for me to move around because I don't want to feel trapped up here, because the minute I get lazy for a minute or fall back on my energy level, they pick up on it instantly. And then if I'm wondering why they were so bad today, it's not always because of a full moon. Sometimes it's because maybe I wasn't 100%. But with this, I know I can move around. I know I can get them in groups. I have, and that's pretty much the idea of it. Just ease of moving around, ease of getting to them, and ease of partnering and group work. That's the main theory behind it, I suppose. Control is basically, to me, making, with a large group, especially, I know, like during reading, I think we're up to like 35 or 36 in here at that time, and it's a matter of making sure that every student is on task, about making sure that, if there are 5 people that are drifting off because they want to start a talk or they want to get up and go to the garbage, they can find a million reasons to pop out of their seat. I try to immediately, let them redirect them, but at the same time, you can tell I'm trying to give the compliments to the person next to them, so maybe they, it doesn't always work, but, if the positive is being heard, but at the same time, I have to realize it's not that if there's learning going on, in this room. Learning to me is not, it's rows, sitting, quiet, straight worksheets. I could get that. I know I could. But at the same time, like this afternoon when we're doing our fraction games, it's going to be loud as heck in here. And there will be some students that are talking about their weekend. And there will be some students that are arguing about something with a pencil. But at the same time, I will try to work on those and diffuse those problems, but I'm not going to sacrifice some great learning that can happen throughout possible chaotic moments, because I know that in some of these activities it's worth it, as long as I stay on my toes and try to keep everybody on. But yeah, to me it's more important if I have an effective learning strategy where I think they can get some hands-on work or whatnot, I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of control to make sure that that's happening. I've seen it both ways, where you'll have a handful of kids that, maybe feel like they haven't really ever been expected to do much work in the first place. They're the bad kid. They might try to please you for a moment, but otherwise I'm in trouble again, kind of deal, where if they are, to me, with my group, and maybe I'm blind to it, but I feel like, a very high percentage of them are working. And with that, and without the negative vibes shooting all over the place, and if it's a matter of me cracking a joke or complimenting somebody or just being in good spirits, or, I know that the child who maybe had a real rough morning or a real rough night, or the parents are working third shift, they really don't see their parent, they're depressed about that, who knows what other problems could be happening. If they come to a classroom where there's an environment where, it's not the most beautiful room, that's not my forte, but if they come in where there's at least a positive energy, they know what to expect, it's no huge surprises, and, with that daily, I think the odds of them having success versus continuing negative attention always, and, just kind of moving through another grade of, feeling negative about school. So yeah, I think it is infectious, and I think kids are working harder than maybe they have in the past under a different environment. I think back to when I started teaching. Right away, I had a negative school experience where I heard the word dumb quite often, or you just don't want to do anything. All the negative things. And sure, I definitely was not a star student. I did struggle, and it ended up where I kind of fell back, and I ended up in the service. And during that time, I kind of thought back to what I really want to do with my life, because I don't want to be in the Yukon Valley in Alaska humping a rucksack. And it kind of came back to my experience in school. So now, which was negative. So I know I can work with these kids here in Milwaukee, and if I can give them the year that they're with me as an experience where they kind of are happy at school, they're happy to come to school, they're excited because they're starting to learn over their learning, and they enjoy being here. If I can give that experience, I know that going into middle school environment, hopefully that's something they could build off of, because that is definitely an area that they're going into that they need all the reinforcement they can get before they walk through those doors. So, that's if I don't do it, then I shouldn't be here. Exercise. I exercise every day, taking care of myself, and, realizing how fortunate I am to have this job. It's a great job. I get to impact the lives of 30 students every day, 30 people, actual people with feelings and emotions, and huge potential. And I'm the center of their life for 6 hours, hopefully, and it creates a positive impact. Then I feel great about my job, and I want to make sure that's how I feel every day I come to work.